For the black hairy tongue?
There's different colors of it too.
It's Candida that's making the tongue
That
black?
finding is the distinct look of black hairy tongue usually results from buildup of dead skin cells on the numerous tiny projections, papillae on the surface of your tongue that contain taste buds.
Yeah.
The blackberry tongue
Teeth.
scrapings confirmed it from the infection, so probably between both.
So it must be oral flora is out of balance. The yeast grew and it must have killed the papillae. What are the little things that taste, the papillae? Those little cells on your tongue, and that's why it turns black, because the cells on your tongue died. I'm not kissing that person, that's for sure.
It's gonna cause some really bad breath.
What?
It's gonna cause some really bad breath if you have all those dead cells in your tongue.
Also, hyperplasia feels more pathway, so over sort of.
Oh. Good. Anaphylactic shock, a lot of people ask about that. Did you ever have a patient allergic to sulfur drug or penicillin? They can go into anaphylactic shock, that's in the immune system. What it is your body overreacts. It's an overactive immune response. First time might be a little overreactive. The second time, it's even more overreactive. By the third time, you could go into shock because the immune system overreacts so much and die. Anaphylactic shock will kill you. All right. Development of resistance in populations. Development of a resistant strain of bacteria. If you take your drug and you don't finish it, you kill off the most sensitive or weak ones first. The strongest ones are what are left behind to grow, and those become superbugs. Antibiotic resistance can occur by, what's this one called? Transduction. Can lead to antibiotic resistance. Biofilms can form, makes them antibiotic resistant. A certain bacteria may produce special enzymes that makes them resistant to the drugs. Here we go. Here's how penicillinase is the enzyme that inactivates penicillin. So penicillinase or transpeptidase, whatever, breaks that lactam ring. I don't know why that one's down there. So that's what I told you. I don't like the organization of this book. It's a little bit weird. I think we're almost done. How much longer can this friggin' thing be? Okay, how are you going to prevent resistance from happening? First one, don't administer an antibiotic unless it's necessary and helpful. That's a hard call to make, I have to tell you. Many years ago, I was cleaning cat cages at the Humane Society, and I was in the wild cat section, and I usually open the cage, take the cat out, throw him over my shoulder, take out his food bowl, dump it out, wipe the cage, throw the cat back in, fill the food bowl, and go to the next cage. So this time I open the cage, go to grab the cat to pull him out of the cage, and chomp, he bites my hand. I had 4 holes from his fangs. It was like a snake bite, puncture wounds. And I thought, I've been bitten by cats before, it's no big deal. Everything's fine. Go about my day, do my work, go home, have supper, go to... Next day I wake up, my hand is swollen up like a softball. And I go to work, and everybody's like, you maybe ought to go get that looked at. I'm like, I'm fine, it's just swollen, I've been bitten by cats before. They're like, I don't think so. So I go to the clinic, and he's like, really, lady? He gave me a tetanus shot. Why? It's a puncture wound. Puncture wounds, you can get tetanus, gangrene, botulism, whatever. He gave me a tetanus booster. Also, he put me on an antibiotic. And I'm glad he did. Because what if I hadn't been given an antibiotic, and it got necrotic and worse, and my whole freaking hand fell off, or I had big scars. So sometimes it's a hard call to make. When is the antibiotic necessary? Well, in that case, the doctor deemed it necessary because he didn't want to take a chance that it was going to heal on its own. He wanted to prevent that. Here I talk about retarding resistance by make sure you take the full prescription. Make sure your patient takes the full prescription of antibiotic so that this doesn't happen. The other thing is, give a cocktail, a combination of different drugs, to make sure that you get them. Here's an example of synergistic effects. You got a zone of inhibition around this disc, you got a zone of inhibition around this disc, but in the middle, the two drugs enhance each other's effect, so the bacteria can't grow in the middle either. You might see that on your Petri plates. Use antibiotics only when necessary. Develop new kinds of drugs. If you're into it, when I was a pharmaceutical rep, we had to study first generation, second generation, third generation drugs. That means they take it back into the lab, they biochemically alter it, they come back with a drug that has a slightly different way of acting that's better than the drug that preceded it. And there you can read this chart in your book. When you go to look at the different antibiotics we're going to use in lab, that chart, they don't give me a copy of it to show you in the PowerPoint, you have to go to your book. But it's several pages long, that chart. It's got antibacterial antibiotics, it's got antiviral drugs, antifungal drugs, antihelminthic, that means against parasitic worms, and antiprotozoals, like what drugs are used for malaria, for example. So it's got a lot of that in there. Okie dokie. Let me just see. What's the therapeutic index? Therapeutic index. Sometimes the doctor will